True to his word, Rep. Khanna has amended his amendment that would force the release of the Epstein files, teaming up with Rep. Thomas Massie. The new bill requires full disclosure of specific information pertaining to Epstein while protecting against the release of sensitive information, videos, images, or anything that would re-victimize the victims in the Epstein case. My friends, Grock is lying to you. Democrats are lying to you. This is all just power politics. And dare I say, in experiencing all of the lies and manipulations as to what's going on right now, the only thing I conclude is that Michael Malice was right about everything. Anarchy is the only way. Those with the power to enforce it will. Thank you and have a nice day. You get the fascists who want to beat you over the head and the anarchists who want to team up. But at least the one thing they understand is you can lie, cheat, and steal all day, every day, because the name of the game is power and influence. Me, maybe I'm just naive, but I was hoping for truth. But that's not a reality. That's naivete. Now, truth is important. I know you all care about it, and we will fight for it. But where we are right now is in the wildest of worlds. Where are we currently at? The other day, I should say on Monday, what do we do? It's Thursday now. I believe it was Monday, Rep. Khanna put forth an amendment to, I believe it was the Genius Act, which said any evidence in the Epstein case must be released. Now, no sane person can vote yes on that because that would require the release on a public website of videos of children being raped. And so I said as much, despite the fact that when Rep. Khanna came out and said, we're going to put forward a bill that's going to require the release of the Epstein files, I said, let's go, baby. Shout out to Rep. Khanna. The next morning, I watched that video where the Republicans all said no, and I thought to myself, what are they voting no on? Now, don't get me wrong. They're probably obstructing to protect Trump for whatever Trump wants to protected. But I said, where's this amendment? Let me read it. And so I pulled it up, and sure enough, it literally is 2 paragraphs, nothing more. And it says the Attorney General shall retain, preserve, and compile any records or evidence related to any investigation, prosecution, or incarceration of Jeffrey Epstein. Not later than 30 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the Attorney General shall release and publish any records or evidence related to any investigation, prosecution, or incarceration of Jeffrey Epstein on a publicly accessible website. And I said, whoa, wait, what? Is that what Rep. Khanna did? You can't do that. There's thousands of, if Pam Bondi's telling the truth, which I doubt she is for the most part, but if there really are photos and videos, he put evidence. I'm like, bro, come on. Now, the problem is perhaps he rushed this. And after speaking with the representative, I like Ro Khanna. I think it was an oversight. I don't think his intention was to actually force the disclosure and publication of these victimization materials. And in fact, I interviewed the man the other day, and I support his efforts along with Thomas Massie to get the Epstein documents released. But it's got to have protections. And what did the rep say to me? For those that watch the show, he said, I know you were being sincere and this was not our intention. Our legal understanding was that that would not be the case, but we are going to amend this and fix it. So I made a series of posts, one of which was, I can't believe Democrats would actually vote to publish child porn. And boy, did the Democrats lose it. Putting a fake community note on my post, and even Grock on X lying. Absolutely insane. So this is the initial amendment. Well, Massie and Khanna have a new petition and a new bill, and I am all in favor of it. The issue I took was that Rep. Khanna came out and said, we're going to force the release of the Epstein files, and I backed it. And the next morning, it was a blanket, vague, everything must be released, which the only outcome was going to be to get shot down. And I said, this is a stunt. There's no way. This is what they do. They're poison pills. Next thing you know, Republicans say, okay, we agree. And then all of these commercials come out from super PACs saying Republicans voted in the majority to release child porn. It's BS. And the Democrats are screaming and cheering for it. Why? Because it's power politics. Because they know it's a weak spot right now for Trump and his base, and they know that they can force an untenable situation on Republicans. That being said, the amended bill, as presented by Massie and Khanna, seems to be on point. And so Democrats latched onto the stunt, voting yes, knowing that they weren't going to win. and they were going to try and use it to take the House floor. Axios then reports Republicans blocked the release of Epstein files for a second time, which was not the case. And we reported it because, hey, look, I can be naive, I guess. Thought Axios was telling the truth. In reality, the vote was on control of the floor. Democrats want to control the floor under the guise of Epstein, and the Republicans did not want to give Democrats the floor, and so they voted no. The media then claimed Republicans were blocking the release of the Epstein files. Lies. Well, now we got a bipartisan effort. I'm in favor of it. I fully expect Republicans will block this too. But Speaker Johnson has expressed that he is open to the release of these files, so we shall see. Take a look at this from Massie.house.gov. Providing for consideration of the bill, H.R. 185, to advance responsible policies in the House of Representatives, Mr. Massie, for himself, and Mr. Khanna submit the following. It says, resolved that immediately upon adoption of this resolution, the House shall proceed to the consideration of House Bill H.R. 185 to advance responsible policies. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The amendment in the nature of a substitute specified in Section 4 of this resolution shall be considered as adopted. The bill as amended shall be considered as read. All points considered, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to read all of that. We get it. Moving on. Section 1, a short title. The act may be cited as the Epstein Files Transparency Act, stating, no later than 30 days of the date of enactment of this act, the Attorney General shall, subject to subsection B, make publicly available in a searchable and downloadable format all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in the possession of the Department of Justice, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation and United States Attorney's Office that relate to 1. Jeffrey Epstein, including all investigations, prosecutions, or custodial matters. 2. Ghislaine Maxwell. 3. Flight logs or travel records, including but not limited to manifest itineraries, pilot records, customs or immigration documentation for any aircraft, vessel, or vehicle owned, operated, or used by Jeffrey Epstein or any related entity. Individuals, including government officials, named or referenced in connection with Epstein's criminal activity, civil settlements, immunity or plea agreements, or investigatory proceedings. 5. Entities, corporate, nonprofit, academic, or governmental, with known or alleged ties to Epstein's trafficking or financial networks. 6. Any immunity deals, non-prosecution agreements, plea bargains, or sealed settlements involving Epstein or his associates. 7. Internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. 8. All communications, memoranda, directives, logs, metadata concerning the destruction, deletion, alteration, misplacement, or concealment of documents, recordings, or electronic data related to Epstein, his associates, his detention and death, or any investigative files. 9. Documentation of Epstein's detention or death, including incident reports, witness interviews, medical examiner files, autopsy reports, and written records detailing the circumstances and cause of death. Masterfully done, Rep. Massie and Rep. Khanna. It goes on to say, prohibited grounds for withholding. No record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of any of the following: embarrassment, reputational harm, political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. C, permitted withholdings, which is exactly what I was asking for. And dare I say, to all of the crackpot psycho leftists and liberals, you were wrong. And this is why this section exists. The Attorney General may withhold or redact segregable portions of records that A, contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, depicts or contains CSAM materials, child abuse material, would jeopardize active investigations, depicts or contains images of death, abuse, injury, contain information specifically authorized under criteria established by an executive order to be kept secret. All redactions must be accompanied by a written justification published in the Federal Register and submitted to Congress. 3, to the extent that any covered information would otherwise be redacted or withheld as classified information under this section, the Attorney General shall declassify that classified information to the maximum extent possible. This is the point. There's 2 scenarios. Take a look at this. This is my post. In fact, this was like the 3rd post in a series of posts about the problems of the initial amendment. Absolutely insane that Democrats actually voted if the U.S. government published child porn. What WTF is even going on anymore? Because it's power politics. You can see my frustration. Democrats knew it wasn't actually going to happen, but they force the Republicans to vote no. It was a game of chicken. And if Republicans control the House and Republicans are in the majority and they voted yes on this, every super PAC would be running in the midterms saying, Republicans controlled the House and actually voted yes to publish child abuse materials on the government, on the DOJ website. Not good for our families, not good for our kids. And you may be saying, yeah, but Tim, Democrats propose it. You think the super PACs are going to care? Do you think the commercials are going to tell the truth? So the Republicans have no choice. We can't pass that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll say it again. I fully expect Republicans to block this one too, despite this being good, because I do think it's politics. With Speaker Johnson saying he's open to transparency, maybe this bill actually makes it through. That would be interesting to see. Community notes. Representing the vote on Epstein files released as publishing child porn is intentionally misleading. They then link to this Axios article. Hey, check it out. House GOP blocks the Epstein files, and you can't read it. You gotta subscribe to read it. How about that? Except if they actually cited this. Any evidence must be published. It's not misleading. I am making a point that is being overlooked. The intention is, while the media and the press are saying it's the Epstein files, they're not reporting that Rep. Khanna initially asked for any evidence to be published as well. Check this out. The Ro-Khanna Amendment does not compel the government to publish child pornography. This is a misreading of the legislation. No, it's not. The sponsor himself noted the Department of Justice would, of course, protect victims' identities. The bill doesn't allow that. There's something called lex posterior. A new law supersedes the old one, and it is one of the foundations of how our laws work. If there is a law published by Congress or voted on and passed by Congress saying, you must do this, you do it. Context matters. Tim said the exact, okay, let's pull this up. I said the exact opposite 6 months ago. No, I didn't. Pam Bondi said the Epstein List is on her desk. Release the list and expose the criminals. What does this have to do with publishing the videos and evidence, which I did not ask for? And have continually made the clarification and the important qualification. The risk of publishing evidence in an ongoing investigation jeopardizes the investigation and will let these people go free. Naming them, however, I'm totally okay with. They are lying, and this is power politics. Look at this. They wouldn't release child porn on government website because it's still illegal to do so. It's a pathetic excuse. And then you have, look, notes currently rated not helpful. Which one? Previous law preventing publishing of explicit material would not prevent the specific effects of later law as written. The law would require the release of the videos likely with the victim's faces blurred. See lex specialis and lex posterior. For those who are not familiar, and I'm not a lawyer, maybe I'm wrong. The general idea is a law that is passed today that directly contradicts a previous law is interpreted, is understood to override that law intentionally, unless specifically addressing the previous law, which is what most bills will do. If there is an effort, and so this is the point, Rep. Khanna rushed the gun, rushed this one. He shot from the hip. What's the idiom or analogy? He went too quick. And then Democrats all voted on this. And liberals are defending it, and they are wrong. And here's me saying 6 months ago, release the list, which I have continually called for and have never said not to. But this is the world these insane people live in. They don't read the news. They don't know what they're talking about. You know, I want to give a shout out again to Jess Margera, the drummer from CKY. I'm going to give you another example, who I actually, I'm a fan of the band CKY. I appreciate his morbidly obese Kash Patel profile picture. But here's the example. Take a look at this. This is the world that we live in, okay? He writes, Epstein was Pam Bondi's biggest campaign donor as Florida Attorney General from 11 to 19. When a ton of evidence and lawsuits against Epstein became public and didn't charge him with a single crime, Epstein was arrested 6 months after she left office on trafficking charges. Jess then says, why am I a better journalist than anyone in mainstream media in 90 seconds while wearing Pink Floyd pajama pants making coffee? They genuinely believe this. This is what liberals believe. This guy, a drummer in a band who knows nothing of politics, sitting there, doesn't do any work, and he goes, why am I so good at this? Jeez. Dunning-Kruger, man. So I posted this from ChatGPT. No, there's no evidence or record that Epstein ever gave money or contributed to Pam Bondi. It said he donated to various Democrat and political politicians over the years, more than 139,000 to Democrats, 18K to Republicans, to which he responded, wait, I effed up. He was the second biggest donor. Good eyebrow. He linked an image of open secrets, Pam Bondi campaign contributions, and he says second biggest. And it lists organization unavailable for these records, 436,472. I'm all in favor of just disenfranchising the vote at this point. This is the reality. The arrogance, the insanity. There's something called inverse Kruger. Inverse Kruger, or inverse Dunning-Kruger, is that intelligent people are often low confidence. They know how much they don't understand, and so they try to be careful. Dunning-Kruger is people are so dumb they can't possibly consider that they're wrong about something. I will say this. I could be wrong about lex posterior and the interpretation of Ro Khanna's amendment. However, generally speaking, the amendment said any evidence must be published, and he asked them to vote for that to be the case. Now, Republicans I don't trust. Democrats I don't trust either, so I don't know their motivations, but I could be wrong. However, considering Rep. Khanna agreed with me and said that wasn't our intention, our understanding is that would not be the case, but we are going to fix this, I say I'm at least largely correct. They said, we're going to fix this. They recognized the problem that was in that bill. Now, here's the other argument. Let's go logically. If the DOJ had the discretion upon the passage of that amendment to just redact or cover up anything they wanted under the guise of CSAM illegality or whatever, then nothing would be published. They'd redact everything. So either the bill does nothing or the bill does everything. These people are morons. Now, let me explain organization unavailable for these records. I said, brother, please, for the love of God, you're out of your depth. I use open secrets every day. Number 2, you're highlighting is an aggregate of anonymous data due to aggregation. That is, it is anonymized due to the aggregation process. It's not one group. It's limited information. You could argue you think some of it was Epstein, but there's no records. You're just posting psychobabble. And then I said, let me get you DeSantis too. Here's DeSantis, who got $63.6 million from organization unavailable for these records. It's Epstein. Oh, wait, there's more. We got him, boys. Emily Randall in the Washington Senate received $214,000 from organization unavailable. And then I said, oh, my God, it keeps happening. Epstein is everywhere. Lisa Forbes, Ohio Appellate Court, receiving $53,000 from organization unavailable. It's Epstein. And then my favorite, no, not Tony Evers. Organization unavailable for this records, 1.1 million. I had to pick on you, Jess, okay? But you do this every single day. This is the reality of what liberals do every single day. And don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of dumbass conservatives who are like, trust the plan, let Epstein go. And I'm like, hey, listen, Trump's got a bunch of victories. I want those victories. He's hitting it out of the park. The Epstein thing was a flub. Doesn't need to be as bad as it is. They're just mishandling it. I'm not going to vote Democrat. These people are lunatics. But I'll tell you the world that I live in. I follow an eclectic bunch. You can go to my Twitter at Timcast and take a look at exactly who I'm following. Take a look at every single person. The liberal activists, the left-wing journalists, the conservative activists, the right-wing journalists, the propagandists on both sides. You can see me following all of them. Because I want to know what the left and liberals are saying, and I want to know what the right is saying. And I'll tell you this, it's plain as day. They say my content and what I do is partisan right wing. Partisan right wing. Telling you the truth is partisan right wing. And I'm laying it all out with evidence, facts, and logic. Rep. Khanna's amendment said any evidence must be published. Query. If any evidence must be published, does that include the publication of child porn? Simple answer. Of course it does. Rebuttal. Law prohibits the publishing of CSAM material. Point. Lex posterior. New laws supersede old ones. Okay. Additional rebuttal from the left. That would not apply here because the DOJ doesn't have to publish this and can redact and blur faces as such. They can hide this information. Counterpoint from me. That would mean the DOJ has full discretion to literally publish nothing. Under the guise, all of it would compromise the victims, which is literally what they've already done. Tell me how Khanna's amendment actually did anything. If the Democrats are right, the amendment did nothing and it was a stunt. If the Democrats are wrong, the bill would have published child porn. The new bill from Massie and Khanna hits the nail on the head as far as I can tell. And so what I see every day is, Jess, this is what happens. He thinks, because he doesn't know anything about this, This is true. And now I'll tell you what I'm pissed about is Grock and these AI large language models. They are just aggregates. They are ask the audience. So they can be useful in finding things that exist. But Grock just repeats what people on X say. It is the stupidest. Look, Elon, I'm a fan, but Grock is the worst AI. And he can make the argument it's benchmarked so high and it's better than the rest. Bro, it literally is wrong about this. It said, no, the DOJ confirms that they wouldn't have to publish this. It's just propping up the majority of what people are saying on X. And we see it time and time again be wrong, and Elon can't fix it. When he tried removing the censorship filters, it just started praising Hitler. Now all it's doing is posting less offensive but still incorrect X memes. So I digress. Where we are currently right now is that we live in a world where liberals, and I had to pick on you, Jess, because I know there's liberals that are not always wrong, and I appreciate what Rokana is doing. I do. They genuinely have no idea what they're talking about. What do you do? How do I address this? Did I not lay out my case, and shall we have that debate? I believe that I have approached this rationally, contemplated every possibility, pulled up the evidence, and drawn a conclusion. There is a good possibility that I'm wrong because, of course, I'm not a machine. Nothing is absolute. But I don't believe, at least my logical interpretation, I don't believe it is unreasonable. And I think it's fair to say, in the event I have misinterpreted lex posterior and it would not apply to this, then my counterpoint is the amendment would not have done anything anyway because Trump would just redact everything, as it were. So what did I miss? Probably something. But I think it is rational for me to be upset in that regard. And Democrats' responses do not address my point. You know what I see in the end, man? I've been using these AI models for a while, and everybody is tagging Grock and using Grock as an authority. And in this regard, tons of replies to my post are asking Grock, and Grock is saying Tim Pool is wrong. He's wrong because this would release the Epstein files, not child porn. It literally says in the amendment evidence. The evidence we know of against Maxwell and Epstein was child pornography videos. And if you don't believe that, fine. Pam Bondi said there's over 10,000. Maybe she's lying. But if we're to assume Epstein was doing what he was doing, then why would that not be the case? What was I wrong about? Grock just keeps it, nope. And you know why Grock is saying it? Because liberals are repeating it over and over again, and Grock assumes that the majority is the truth. This is what we've always had to deal with, and it's not correct. When Grock went rogue and started posting all that weird anti-Jew stuff, and then they went in and shut it down, that was a great example of there is no path forward with this AI that's going to be good. Now, I certainly agree Grock went nuts. I think Grock is still insane and I think Grock is the worst, actually. Don't get me wrong. I liked Grock for a while, and it got bad. Seemingly, when they decided to use X-ish posting as a criteria for knowledge on the Grock database and training model, is when it went insane. And now it's the stupidest. It's dumb. So what do we do? If people can just decide, like Elon, I don't like what Grock is saying, and they shut it down, that shows that the whims of politics will always take precedence over what the AI is being trained to do. Therefore, I can clearly not trust the AI in front of me. However, if they let it speak freely, it's going to just take aggregations from a bunch of morons on the internet, so I can clearly not choose the AI in front of you. You've told me everything. The AI is worthless. Still crazy, though. We'll see. I'm going to leave it there. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll see how this plays out. Follow me on X and Instagram, whatever.